All right. So, if you already have a full time job and a side hustle, or you're just thinking about adding a side hustle to your job, congratulations. Every one of us should really be doing more to make sure that we are diversifying our income and to make sure that we are advancing our own dreams and interests while we also make a living. Um, but honestly, if you're watching this, I wouldn't be surprised if you're not only balancing a full time job and a side hustle, but you're also balancing having a personal life and maybe having kids and maybe even going to college. I mean, I've been there and done that in the past when I was still an undergraduate at Purdue University. I was a full time college student. I had about two or three jobs, and I was also a freelance editor. And of course, I was in a relationship. I was going out with friends. So I know exactly what that feels like. And if whether you're balancing five different things or you're only balancing the full time job and the personal life and a side hustle, it is very important that you do not burn out. I'm probably going to say that a couple times throughout this video because that is why I made this video. I want to give you the top five tips that I have learned from, well, over a decade, honestly, of having to balance a full-time job with a side hustle and even college. So I want to begin with what I think is my number one tip, which is to be, yes, very intentional about what you're working on. That's probably not going to come as a surprise. So my channel is called Tiffany's Toolkit, and the thing that I really care about with this YouTube channel is helping to guide people to be intentional with their goals so that you're not falling into the trap of being busy. You're just working on stuff that's not really moving you forward, and it's taking up all your time and it's making you feel like you're doing something, but you're kind of not. And here's the thing, if you have a full-time job and you also have a side hustle, and of course, hopefully, a personal life, what that means is that you have very limited time to work with. And you need to be very respectful of that limited time. And the best way to be respectful of that time that you're going to have to dedicate to your side hustle outside of your full time job and your personal life, it needs to matter. That time on your side hustle needs to be spent on tasks that actually advance your business. And what I mean by that is if after work you have about 3 or 4 hours to work with, and you're spending that 3 or 4 hours on emails, looking at social media, and you don't even know what your overall business and side hustle goals are. Well, hours on email, while that's important, is not advancing your business. So what I highly suggest is that in order to be intentional with the time that you are dedicating to your side hustle after work, you need to have like quarterly goals or something you're hoping to really achieve in the coming months. And everything you write and plan on your to-do list needs to move you a little bit closer day by day to that gigantic overall goal. So for me, my overall goal, for instance, with this YouTube channel is to keep on going and being consistent with my videos. And so everything that I do for my side hustle is dedicated to moving me closer to getting into a consistent rhythm with YouTube. I give myself about a half hour a day to do that. And later on in this video, I'll actually explain what my balancing act looks like. So number one, be intentional about what you do. Do not spend that time, that limited time that you have for your side hustle. Don't spend that time doing busy work. Only work on stuff that's actually getting you closer to your goal. My second important bit of advice is to find a time management method that legitimately works for you. And what I'm going to recommend to you is the time management method that I've been doing for a long time, not just because I'm familiar with it and can give you advice on it, but also because it just makes sense if you're balancing a side hustle with a full-time job to use this method. This is called time blocking. What time blocking is when you have every single portion of your day kind of blocked off on certain tasks. Now, stick with me here. I know to some of you that sounds kind of insane. You want me to plan out every single minute of my life? I mean, when I first started doing time blocking, that totally turned me off. At first, it made me feel like I was a slave to the schedule and I was never going to get out of it. And it really stressed me. And eventually, though, it just makes sense to me. The reason that time blocking makes sense if you're balancing is because chances are you have to schedule your side hustle and your personal life and anything else, school or whatever that is, around your job or your classes, so and everything else ends up being scheduled around those things. So if you work, let's say 9 to 5, 9 to 5 is already a time block that you don't have a choice but to adhere to anyway. And you have to schedule what you're going to do for your side hustle either before 9 to 5 or after 9 to 5. And so with 9 to 5 being that big time block that you already have to follow, then it means you might as well just time block the rest of the day around what you need to do. And I'm going to give you some really helpful do's and don'ts about how to time block effectively. So the very first time I tried time blocking was back in college. Back then I was forced to do it because I had 2 jobs and I had college, and I had to wrap my day and my time blocks around my classes and my schedule for my job. And what I realized I was doing back then that really made me sick and was not great for my mental state was that I was only time blocking work. I wasn't time blocking meals well enough, or I wasn't giving myself any relaxation time, which is a big no-no. So what would happen is that I'd say, oh, I only need a half hour at this time every day to eat a meal. That doesn't consider how long it takes for the meal to be cooked, how long it takes me to eat it, if there's a delay getting to the place that I want to eat at. And then my next time block would be to work on homework or something. Then my meal time pulls over into that next time block of working on homework, and I feel bad. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And so then something ends up falling by the wayside. Either I don't eat well or I don't do my homework, and then I feel even worse, and it just builds up day by day, So you need to make sure that the time block that you're choosing is making sure that you have ample time for relaxation, for eating, for socializing, for moving your body and not working, So that was something I didn't do. I gave myself very short times to eat, and I never scheduled hanging out and enjoying life. It was always just like time blocks of work, and it wore me all the way out. So that is a don't. A do to combat that issue is to kind of give yourself more time than you think for anything you're time blocking. So if you're saying, it's only going to take me a half hour to do homework, and I'm only going to time block 8 o'clock every day to homework, and it keeps taking you like 45 minutes or an hour, then you need to make that time block longer. And you need to generally, it's a good idea to anticipate that you're going to end up taking a bit more time than you think. I mean, this is actually a smart technique for back when I was freelance editing. I would think to myself, I think it's only going to take me 10 hours to do this, but I always added an extra 5 hours on in my schedule in case something came up so that I wasn't trapped by that 10 hours. Sometimes our perspective of what we can do with time just is not correct. So to rewind that, my number 2 tip is to find a time management method that really, really works for you. And I'm going to suggest that you do research on time blocking and figure out a time blocking template that makes most sense for you so that every part of your day is planned out and that you're making sure that you are planning in time to hang out, to eat, to enjoy your life and relax on top of the time you're spending on your side hustle and your job. My third tip is to be very understanding that your schedule might need to change. Basically, what I'm saying here is do not beat yourself up if you have the best to-do list ever, the greatest time block schedule you've ever made, and it falls apart. 1 week it just doesn't work out. Don't beat yourself up if that happens. That is something I'm giving advice on because that's something I stumbled with. I created this really strict schedule for myself that it occurred to me that if someone with a full-time schedule I made my schedule of how I'm going to do my business work with the idea and the hope that I'm going to be full-time later in my own business. So I was planning my day as if I was already a full-time entrepreneur, knowing that that is not the case and that I have a full-time job. And so instead of stressing myself out every day, thinking, no, I have to stick with this schedule or else I'm a failure of a side hustler or of an entrepreneur, I decided I just need to alter the schedule. But this does tie into my fourth tip, which is while you need to give yourself permission to understand that sometimes you'll make a schedule that is not right for you, and you might need to make some changes to make it right for you, you need to also hold yourself accountable. Create a schedule, a time block, a to-do list, whatever it is that you do. Create it and try your best to actually stick to it. And in whatever way you need to do to stick to this schedule. So what I'm going to recommend for accountability is that you use something like focusmate.com, which allows you to work with someone for 90 minutes and tell them what the task is. And you talk about it a little bit before and a little bit after, and you have to explain to that person if you actually completed your task. That's the way to hold yourself accountable. But I also recommend using something like Pomodoro. I have a whole video about that, which I will link to in the comments after this video is done going live. I'll link to that Pomodoro technique video. And you can use the Pomodoro technique to hold yourself accountable because you can choose however many minutes. Is normally 25 minutes, and you can say this 25 minutes is dedicated to this specific task for my goal, and use that to hold yourself accountable. And try to stick to your schedule for at least 2 to 3 weeks. Like, give yourself some time to warm up to this schedule and really integrate it in your life. So if you come up with a new time block schedule, in the first week, you're having some troubles really integrating with it. You're not used to it. You were doing things kind of however way it made sense to do it in the past without any organization. And then suddenly you're trying to be in this new organization system. There's going to be some kinks to work out, no matter how organized you are. And that's okay. That first week you might think, this is how I have time blocked. But gosh, something went over. Oh my God, something came up. That doesn't mean that, because that first week has some kinks in it and you didn't follow it exactly, that schedule is bad and you need to fix it immediately. That just means give yourself another week or two to try to comfortably get into that schedule, to really integrate it in your life so that it does become a habit. It will not happen immediately, and that is not a problem, So this is just to stop you from willy-nilly changing your schedule when maybe nothing is actually wrong with it. Maybe it's just that you need more time to get used to it. But of course, like I've mentioned before, there will be times where that schedule is just no good. No amount of trying to stick to it is helping you. It's just not realistic. And that's when you just need to be self-aware, honest with yourself about when you've reached that point. Okay. And so my very last tip, which is honestly what I started with and why I even made this video, is to avoid burning out. Guys, do everything in your power to not burn out. In high school, even back then, I was doing a lot of stuff. I burned out bad, Back then, I didn't know it was time blocking, but that's what I was doing. And I was just filling my schedule up with stuff to do, classwork, internship stuff, university, clubs, hanging out. I was just nonstop. Back then I even had a small business. It wasn't making money, but it was still a business in my brain online. I had a website and I barely slept. I worked all day. I worked throughout the night. I barely ate. It was just work. And finally, I ended up in the hospital and it was pretty bad. And I learned a very important lesson. If you're working hard to get your goals to come true, to make your dreams a reality, and you burn yourself out and you end up spending some time in the hospital and you end up having some after effects of sickness from that burning out, well, then all of that work is kind of like, why did you do it if you were going to harm yourself and end up taking time away from your business anyway? It's kind of like if you're rushing in your car to get somewhere, you get in a car crash. Well, it would have been better for you to be late to that event than to have gotten into that car crash and totally missed it or hurt yourself, or even worse. Like, just put your own body and your own health first. I just cannot reiterate the importance of this, because if you are balancing a side hustle and you have a full-time job and you have a personal life and maybe you're going to school and you have a family, you need to be there for yourself and for the people you love. And not burning out should be your very number one top priority. All right. So those are my top 5 tips, just to go through them really quickly. Number 1, be intentional about your goals. Don't do busy work. Work on stuff that is actually going to help you succeed in your business based off of the end goals you have a month later. Number 2, find a time management method that actually works best for you. If you are balancing a side hustle and a full-time job, I highly recommend time blocking. Get on Google, look it up, find a method that works for you. Number 3, be understanding that your schedule might need to change, and do not beat yourself up if things don't work out. But that goes in tandem with number 4, which is to hold yourself accountable, whether that's by using focusmate.com or Pomodoro. And make sure you stick with your schedule enough for you to actually get used to it before you decide that I need to fix it and throw the whole thing out. Maybe you don't need to throw the whole thing out. Maybe you just need to get used to it. Give yourself about 2 or 3 weeks to get in the rhythm of the schedule before you decide it's a failure, But of course, be self-aware enough to know when it is genuinely a failure and nothing you do is going to fix that. And then my final 5th tip, do not burn out. Make time, no matter how busy you are, to be with the people you love, to eat well, to drink water, to get outside in nature if that makes you feel good. It makes me feel good, but find what makes you feel good and make time for that. Step away from your workspace and breathe, and do that throughout the day. Give yourself a break between your full-time job and your side hustle. Just make sure that you're not work so much that you end up with a body that can no longer work and you're in the hospital. Don't do that to yourself. So I mentioned at the start of this that I would end this video by talking a little bit about the actual balancing act schedule that I have. And I recently just updated this. Previously I had a schedule that was really tough, and it was beating me up. I was feeling really upset about it because I was like, I know I have the intelligence and the ability to do it. Why am I not doing it? It was making me really upset. And I finally realized it's because it's unrealistic. So this is the schedule that I came up with that's realistic for me. And if it works for you, you can enact something like this. But keep in mind that if this schedule isn't the schedule that works for you, you can totally build a schedule that is best for yourself. So here's what my week looks like. Monday through Friday, I work generally 9 to 4 or 9 to 4:30 at my full-time job. And after that, from about 4:30 to 6, that is time to get up away from my desk and to go on a jog with my boyfriend if he's home, to go to my room and watch TV, to go in the kitchen and prep dinner. For that hour and a half after my full-time job, I always get up and do something else. No more work. I used to have a problem with if I had a to-do list of tasks that kept popping up during work that I know I wanted to work on after work. I would just work within, I'd close my work laptop, I'd grab that to-do list, I would just dive immediately into side hustle work. And that was no good. I was just so exhausted by the end of the night. No, for that hour and a half, get up, get away from your workspace, do something else. That is what I do from 4:30 to 6. Then from 6 to 6:30, I work on task for Chicago Women in Publishing. That is a organization that I am currently the vice president of and will soon be the president of. And right now we're transitioning roles and interviewing a lot of people who want to be on the board. We have a lot of things in mind to improve Chicago Women in Publishing. And I'm passionate about the organization, even though it's volunteer. And it does tie into my own goals as an entrepreneur. So I spend a half hour Monday through Friday on Chicago Women in Publishing. Then I take a 10-minute break, normally to get away from my computer, step outside, talk to my boyfriend or some friends on phone, look at some social media for 10 minutes. Then from 6:40 to 7:10, another half-hour segment, I work on social media for my brands. So what that means is that instead of just posting something on Twitter or Facebook, I also spend some time engaging, responding to people who've commented on or liked my stuff, going to the pages of people who follow me or who I want to follow me and talking to them, doing more than just posting, but being actively engaged in my social media. I spend a half hour a day on that. After I'm engaged with my social media, I take another 10-minute break. Then I sit back down, and from 7:20 to 7:50, another half hour segment, I work on more long development tasks for my business. So right now, YouTube is my main thing. That is my main focus. Every Saturday, I spend pretty much from 12 to 8 focusing mainly on YouTube stuff. I work on graphics, I do promotion, I record the videos, I edit the videos, I write descriptions. All of that happens on Saturday. But there are other things I want to do for my business, like update my website. I want to start creating some worksheets and upload those to Fiverr. I want to create some email lists, all of that stuff. Because Saturday needs to be focused on my content creation, is my main business platform. I don't really have much time to work on the website or anything like that. And they're important, and I want to get those done, but the YouTube comes first right now. So to make sure that I still have time to work on those other long range goals on top of my main goal of YouTube, I give myself an hour every day, 5 days a week on the website, on Fiverr, and my worksheets, on other tasks that I want to dedicate myself to later. So what I do is from 7:20 to 7:50, another half hour segment, I work on those things. I take another 10-minute break. And then from 8 to 8:30, I go back to working on the long range goals. And all that's a half hour, but I split it up into, or in all that's an hour, excuse me, but I split it up into 30-minute, 10-minute break, 30 minutes. And then from 8:30 p.m. onward, that's when I would prep some snacks for the next day, maybe prep overnight oatmeal. I tend to eat that for breakfast. And then it's just time to relax. Maybe I'll have a late dinner. Sometimes during my 4:30 to 6 break, I'll make dinner in there. And if I get hungry again, I'll just eat the leftovers from that early dinner I made. But every now and then I end up making dinner at 8:30, even though it's pretty late. And then from 8:30 until my bedtime, usually about 11:30 to 12, that is time to relax. Like, there is no more work. If I didn't finish something on my to-do list, that rolls over until tomorrow. From 8:30 onward, I do not work. I'm either in my kitchen with snacks, or I'm with my boyfriend, or I'm relaxing, reading, watching something away from my workspace and in a space that I associate with something outside of work, like my bedroom or my backyard. And so the weekends. Saturdays, like I mentioned, I choose to work from 12 to 8 on my content creation. Right now it's YouTube. In the future, when I can start outsourcing and paying other people to help me with YouTube, it'll be YouTube on top of a podcast. And that's my content creation day. Spend all of Saturday on that. Then on Sunday, I spend 2 to 3 hours working on Chicago Women in Publishing again, the volunteer organization that I'm part of. And then I spend 3 to 4 hours doing stuff around the house. So I'll sit down and I'll create the meal plan for the week, normally using Supercook, which I've also done a video about and can link to in the comments. And then I do some cleaning around the house. I have a bunch of paperwork that are in boxes. I try to throw some stuff out and figure out what I'm going to scan and then shred. And I also spend that 3 to 4 hour segment making sure my business finances are updated. This is a very important bonus tip. It's really smart to have one day a week if you have a side hustle that is dedicated to giving yourself a little bit of time to have a income and expenses spreadsheet that you update every week, once a week. So on Sundays, I look at my PayPal account, I look at my bank account, I look at my emails and receipts to see what did I spend money on for the business and what did I make money from the business that I need to track. I also track how much percentage went to taxes, how much it went to myself for personal spending, and how much went back to the business to support my business's bills. I have a spreadsheet that I track all of those things. And then I also back up my files on my 1 terabyte Seagate backup system once a week. I only update the folders that I consistently update, like stuff to do with my YouTube videos for sure. I want to make sure that I don't lose everything. So once a week, I back up that and I back up all my financial documentation to track my business's expenses and income. I do that every Sunday. So yeah, that is the way that I time block my whole week. And this is new. I'm really excited about this new plan. I think that it's going to be a lot more effective than my last plan, which in the past I thought I was going to batch record a bunch of videos at once and only 2 months. And it was just, as a full-time worker, there's no way I had time to batch record 20 videos in 2 months. It's just too much work. So I reordered my schedule to fit what is better for a full-time worker who has a side hustle. I hope this has been really, really helpful for you. If you want a copy of what my schedule is like in written form, or you want the spreadsheet that I use to track my business, anything like that. If there's anything in this video that you want more advice or tips about, like time blocking or anything, please let me know in the comments, whether you let me know live or you let me know in the replay in the comments below this video. Thank you so much for watching this. If you enjoyed this content, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell and like my videos and share it with those who it might help. I am going to do live videos every other Saturday, and then I'm going to go back to doing my produced videos like with reviews or how-tos every other Sunday. So I look forward to continue doing this. I'm going to continue doing it no matter how many people are watching it live, because I feel hopeful, and I truly believe that one day, the more I do this and the more I keep up with it, the more people will come. So yeah, you have a great day, and don't burn out.